You have fire code violations at your club.
Listen.
Hey, don't touch the camera.
Leave me alone, all right? Leave me the alone.
Mike, do me a favor and go away, all right?
We need to ask you about what happened that time that you had that sex on duty.
Hi, Mr. Judah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Well, I've got a meeting in just a few minutes,
Yep.
so you'll have to ask the question later.
I'll ask you on the way to the chambers.
No,
Can I ask you about your trip to Fenway?
you can look into it.
I already did. About any of your past drug use or being sober? I mean, will you talk about, are you sober now?
Yes, absolutely I am.
So how much concrete are we really talking about here? Well, it's 6 cubic yards, and this is what 6 cubic yards looks like.
Mr. Banks, hey. No, can I ask you a quick question?
No.
That means they are 7 inches too close. May seem like a minor detail, but it could cause major problems.
It's hard to believe that this dog is supposed to look like this one.
Asking me a damn thing, okay?
Actually, I am going to ask you a couple of questions about the helicopter.
A Fort Myers family accusing 2 Lee County deputies of using excessive force, one even pulling out his weapon in front of several small children, and it's all caught on camera. Tonight, we're learning one of them had faced similar accusations before. Foreign Reporter investigator Mike Mason digging into this one to let you decide if the deputies went too far.
In a Fox 4 investigation earlier this year, 7 customers of a gay bar in Fort Myers claimed Deputy Scott Hill charged them with his gun drawn for no reason, and he even tasered a handicapped man. Tonight he's accused of using excessive force again.
I remember the video every day. You know, okay?
Ada Matias breaking down each time she watches this video showing a Lee County deputy pointing his weapon at her family.
Oh my God!
And arresting her teenage daughter. It happened last year on July 31st when Matias was having a party at her home in East Fort Myers. Cameras were rolling when the good time took a horrible turn, ending with the arrest of Ada, her husband, and her teenage daughter. A sheriff's office report shows Deputy Scott Hill was on patrol when he noticed 4 Hispanic males drinking beer next to Ada's home, under the no loitering sign on the side of this convenience store. Reports show Hill then arrested the 4 men for having open containers. One of them was Ada's husband. That's when Ada walked outside to find out why he was being arrested.
What is the problem?
According to police reports, the deputy says there were 30 to 35 people in the yard. Ada Matias confronted me and started yelling in Spanish. It was obvious that Matias was trying to incite a riot among the gathering people and refusing my lawful commands to leave the area. Hill then called for backup, and Deputy Kenneth Sherman arrived, and that's when things really heated up. Video shows Ada's 10-year-old daughter going to the cruiser to see her father. Deputy Sherman then grabs her arm and pulls her away. When the girl runs back again, Deputy Hill pulls out a weapon in front of small children. Deputy Hill then approaches Ada's 14-year-old daughter with a pair of handcuffs. As he grabs her wrist, the girl takes a swing at Deputy Hill, and that's when Deputy Sherman takes her to the ground and she's arrested. 2 small children try to approach their sister, but are pushed away. In Deputy Hill's report, he writes, the 14-year-old girl raised her fist and struck him in the arm and chest multiple times before she was restrained by Deputy Sherman. But that's not what the video shows. You can clearly see the girl taking one swing at Deputy Hill, and she misses. We also asked the girl about this directly. The deputy says that you swung at him multiple times. Is that true?
No, it's not.
The teen was charged with battery on a law enforcement officer and resisting an officer with violence. Miami attorney John DeLeon is fighting to get those charges dismissed.
It just seems completely way out of bounds to point the guns at children who, while they're investigating, a misdemeanor drinking in public. And this is what leads to people tragically getting shot.
We asked the Lee County Sheriff's Office about what happened. They say Deputy Hill was pointing his taser, which looks similar to a handgun. They also say Deputy Hill had every right to draw his weapon because he felt Ada Matias was inciting a riot and his life was in danger. But we found this is not the first time Deputy Scott Hill has been accused of using excessive force. On January 7th, customers at a Fort Myers gay bar called the Office Pub say Hill and another deputy charged them in the parking lot with their guns drawn.
They were charged at us with their guns drawn and their flashlights on us and said, get on your knees. And we didn't move to get on our knees right away, so then they said, get on your knees. We will shoot you.
At the time, Deputy Hill was serving a warrant next door at Babe's Gentlemen's Club when he claims hearing gunshots coming from the area of the Office Pub. But customers say the sound wasn't from a gun, it was actually a car door being slammed. Reports show deputies ordered all 7 customers to the ground, but Robert Ortiz is handicapped and couldn't comply, so Deputy Hill shot him with a taser. Ortiz remembers what he told Hill.
I can't put my arms up. I got to talk. Well, I'm like this, and there's nothing there. And he says, you get on your knees now. And I said, I can't. And he fires his taser at me.
The Lee County Sheriff's Office investigated the bar customers' complaints and determined there was no evidence to prove the officers did anything wrong. In this most recent case, the Sheriff's Office says no one filed a complaint against the 2 deputies, so the Sheriff's Office did not investigate. Ada Matias says charges against her were dropped, and now she wants the same for her daughter.
I don't know what happened this day, but me only pray for my God.
Attorney John DeLeon is set to take depositions in this case next week and says if charges against the teen are not dropped, he will go to trial.
LASIK surgery is becoming more and more popular. That means the business itself is becoming more competitive, so the consumers have to watch out. The ads for LASIK are everywhere. You could say it's surgery for sale, but as you're about to see, picking the place with the best price could turn out to be the worst thing you do.
The ad in the paper is a real eye-opener. LASIK surgery for $299 an eye at the LASIK Vision Institute in Tampa. And the initial consultation is free. Looks like quite a deal. But our investigation reveals it might not be so easy to get that cut rate offer.
So you say that you do surgeries for $299 per eye?
The manager at this LVI on Fowler Avenue wouldn't tell us how many patients actually get LASIK for $299 an eye. So we decided to try and find out for ourselves. We sent a member of our team inside LVI with a hidden camera. Jason Meyer, a patient counselor with no medical background, explains the cost of the surgery, offering 3 different package deals. But when our patient asked if he could get the advertised deal for $299,
he said my eyes were very much out of the range of that $299, yes.
Even before his eyes are thoroughly examined by a medical professional, Meyer tells our patient he doesn't qualify for the special rate. Instead, Meyer offers LASIK surgery for $1,799 per eye, a total of nearly $3,600. So to be sure it's the right choice, our patient asked to meet with the surgeon before he signs any papers.
We asked to meet the doctor, and both couldn't because they were in surgery.
Sounds like a reasonable explanation, but then our patient is told he has to put down a $100 deposit before meeting the surgeon. When our patient refuses, the counselor walks out.
He actually showed a little bit of anger.
A couple of weeks later, we tried to speak with Jason Meyer ourselves.
Do you mind if we come in here and wait for Jason?
I do mind if you come in here. Yeah, you have to wait.
Do you ever do surgeries for $299 per eye?
Yes, we do, but I can't talk to you. Yeah.
We spoke with 6 LVI patients who had surgery on the same day. None got the advertised special.
Did anybody see an ad in the paper? Or?
That's how I saw it.
The president of LVI, Marco Musa, claims the company still has the best deal in town. We caught up with Musa at LVI's corporate headquarters in Palm Beach County.
I challenge you to put out there the truth of the matter, and that the fact of the matter is that we provide the very best surgeons out there, the most experienced surgeons, at the overall average price to be the lowest in the nation. I challenge you to do that.
I challenge you to show me how many people you have done a surgery for $299 per eye.
And I will promise you that I will do that. I hope you print that, as long as I have your promise that you will print what I just said.
Absolutely.
Well, you saw it. We aired his statement, but Marco Musa didn't keep his promise. In fact, we never got a complete answer from LVI. Their attorney later told us that they just don't keep track of how many patients get surgery for $299 an eye.
All 6 of the LVI patients we interviewed spent thousands. They all had the procedure done the same day, and they all got terrible eye infections.
It burned, it hurt. You couldn't open my eyes.
It's incredible amounts of pain.
Oh, I went through hell.
Ron Link runs a website which serves as the largest advocacy group in the country for patients who have been harmed by LASIK. It's based right here in Tampa. A botched surgery in Ohio cost Ron his career as a firefighter. Now he's fighting for higher standards.
And I've dialogued with thousands of people who wish they had never, ever, laid under that laser.
LASIK surgery can be very successful if the patient is screened properly by a licensed medical doctor.
How common is infection after surgery?
It's incredibly rare. Out of 20,000 cases, I've never had an infection.
Dr. Stephen Updegraff of St. Petersburg meets with each of his patients before surgery. He examined the same patient we sent into LVI and determined his surgery should cost $2,250 per eye. That's $450 more than LVI quoted, but patients harmed by LASIK now realize you can't put a price tag on something as precious as your vision.
I can't go to the eye store and buy another pair of eyes.
Earlier this year, the Federal Trade Commission filed a lawsuit against LVI for making false claims. The Department of Health warns patients to meet with the surgeon before the actual surgery. And as for the infections suffered by the patients in our story, LVI says it believes an airborne virus is to blame.
So imagine our surprise when we found commissioners and even staff members have a private plane that they can use to jet around the state anytime they want. And they don't have to pay a dime, but you do. Tonight, Fox 4 investigates what some are calling the county's secret jet. 4 in the Corner investigator Mike Mason joins us live to explain.
Yeah, we found Lee County taxpayers are paying for flights even if the pilot is the only one on board. And you may be surprised to hear what officials told us when we confronted them about it.
As County Commissioner, please take a look at my new private plane.
When newly elected Commissioner Larry Kiker heard Lee County officials owned a private plane and were using it to jet around the state, he was concerned.
I knew nothing of the plane. I was talking to someone and they said, "Did you know?" And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me."
So he had to see it for himself.
Where do we spend the money?
A couple of months ago, while using his iPad, he shot this video of the twin-engine Piper Navajo at Page Field. He now has serious questions about how that plane is being used.
I saw that son of a gun and I said, "This is not right. It doesn't look right, doesn't smell right."
It's a personal toy for the county.
Rob Weber is also concerned. He's a pilot himself and stays connected with local politics. He wants to know why county officials are allowed to use a plane to fly to places within driving distance.
Why we were spending this kind of money to fly these people, it's just ridiculous.
Fox 4 requested information about the plane and found it's owned by the Lee County Port Authority, acquired 20 years ago in a drug forfeiture. In the past 2 years, officials with the Port Authority have taken 36 flights, and Lee County commissioners have used it 20 times. The cost of operating this small plane? More than $85,000 in fiscal year 2010 and 11, and $76,000 in 2011 and 12. But when we began crunching the numbers, things didn't seem to add up. The Port Authority estimates the hourly cost of flying the plane is about $1,000 per hour. That includes fuel and all costs associated with the aircraft. For example, according to the Port Authority, they spent about $7,000 to fly 4 people to Tallahassee last year. In their annual report, they claim to have saved money because that trip would have cost more than $24,000 to book on a commercial airline, according to a software program they use to compare expenses. So we went to the Port Authority for answers.
I just don't understand how you could say that it could be $24,000 when you have a charter company here that will do it for $2,800.
You're arguing about software that we don't provide. We don't have the software. We didn't make the software.
Spokesperson Vicki Moreland says the software factors expenses such as salaries of staff members for the time they're out of the office, hotel fees and meals. But could using a private plane really save a reported $150,000 last year?
As a businessman, I'm going to question, where is your $150,000 savings?
This airplane and the way they're trying to justify it is just ridiculous.
But we found something that may be even more disturbing. When Commissioner Frank Mann needed to fly to Tallahassee and spend the night, the pilot flew back here to Fort Myers and picked them up the next day. Mann tells us in 2011, on 2 occasions, pilot James Cothard told him he needed to fly back to Fort Myers to take care of his exotic cats. So each extra trip doubled the 3-hour flight time, making it 6.4 hours. And at $1,000 per flight hour, that's more than $6,000 to fly a commissioner to Tallahassee.
The chief pilot wasn't going to stay over there in Tallahassee because he had to take care of his cats. That's why he said he had to go back.
The airplane always is returned back. I don't know what anyone told Mr. Commissioner Mann. I did ask Mr. Cothard if he said anything about it. He said he does not recall that conversation.
I knew that he had cats that he took care of when he got home.
But the Port Authority contends it's standard procedure to return the plane to Fort Myers each night. So every time a county official or staff member needs to spend the night somewhere, the pilot flies solo back to Page Field and then goes back to pick them up the next day.
Is that a waste?
That seems insane. It absolutely sounds insane.
When you're taking double trips, basically an additional $3,000 to let the pilot come back instead of spending the night. I mean, it's big cost difference. You know,
yeah.
Hotel's going to cost you $100 and something a night, not Another $3,000.
I find it a little bit difficult to believe that it would be more expensive to put the pilot up overnight.
When the Tallahassee legislature is in session, hotel rooms are not $49, or if you're traveling during peak times in Florida, you can have hotel rooms that exceed several $100s.
Moreland also contends the aircraft doesn't cost taxpayers a dime, and the county is not billed for its services.
And we don't get any of our revenues from the property tax dollars. We're completely funded by money that comes in from and derived from our partners here at the airport.
But Fox 4 found that's not exactly true.
Taxpayers do have to pay for the use of the plane while county commissioners are flying it.
So there are tax dollars involved.
Clearly.
In fact, each time a county official flies on the plane, the cost of fuel and pilot time is billed back to the county. In 2010 and 11, the county paid out more than $10,000. And in 2011 and 12, the county was billed over $9,000, and those are your tax dollars.
For them to say that it's not costing the taxpayers money, that's just some more of their fuzzy math.
And Weber says even though the rest of the flights are paid by the Port Authority, it is still passed on to the public.
If they're saying it comes from airline fees and stuff like that, every time you purchase a ticket, you're paying for those fees.
And that's one reason Mann wants to sell the plane, something Commissioner Larry Kiker now supports.
For $300,000, we can probably sell this plane. Just for a general service that's offered to staff as well as elected officials, then I think that that might be a point of contention with a lot of people.
And Larry Kiker says as soon as he takes office, he'll support a motion to sell the plane. The board that oversees the Port Authority is comprised of Lee County commissioners.
It is a case of drunk driving caught on tape. The Tampa police officer arrested for this crime even admits he was drunk.
But the case was dismissed and the court records no longer exist. And you won't believe the excuses the Action News investigators are getting. Mike Mason confronted the judge who made the questionable decisions. And Mike, what did he have to say when you did confront him?
Well, Wendy, he really didn't want to say anything at all, but he didn't have much of a choice. For months, Judge Elvin Martinez hasn't talked to anyone about this case, refusing requests for an interview. But we showed up at the courthouse with a camera, and he finally did talk for the first time. Problem is, what he said just doesn't add up.
In August of 2001, Hillsborough County deputies got a call that someone was driving the wrong way down US 41 in Lutz. The driver, Sergeant Norman Crutchfield of the Tampa Police Department, was drunk. He failed a field sobriety test, and his blood alcohol content was nearly 3 times the legal limit.
No doubt you were drunk that night, though.
No doubt.
Even though Sergeant Crutchfield admits he was drunk that night, he was never charged with DUI.
My records have been expunged.
You won't find a record of Sergeant Crutchfield's arrest at the county courthouse. That's because a judge ordered the file to be removed from the public record. This videotape is the only evidence of what happened that night. County Judge Elvin Martinez dismissed the case based on a technicality. But some wonder if Martinez's ruling was too lenient.
Are you soft on drunk drivers?
Oh, of course not. You've got to, that's an insult.
I've got to ask the question.
Insult. Well, that's an insult.
Judge Martinez dismissed the case because of a missing audio tape like this one. The tape had 911 calls made by witnesses who saw Crutchfield's car driving down the road the wrong way. The tape was sitting in a recycle bin here at the sheriff's office, and the state attorney couldn't find it until the day of court. Judge Martinez said that was unacceptable, and he simply dismissed the entire case.
I think this guy got the lucky break of the decade.
Attorney Pat Anderson believes the audio tape had nothing to do with the judge's decision.
That kind of a tape would be icing on the cake, that's all.
Anderson has experience prosecuting judges. She once worked with the Judicial Qualifications Commission, a state agency that investigates judges and allegations of misconduct. She says Judge Martinez's decision doesn't make a lot of sense.
Very unusual, very unusual.
Why would he do something like this?
You know, somebody ought to ask him.
And we did.
I don't remember the case. I'm telling you, I have many cases.
And guess what? Sergeant Crutchfield doesn't remember much about it either. Crutchfield claims the night he was arrested, he was so drunk that he blacked out. And he says there's a possibility someone else was driving his car that night. Even though that person was nowhere to be found, and Crutchfield was the only one in the driver's seat.
You say you weren't driving?
No, I have no recollection of driving.
He may have been abducted by aliens, that other passenger.
It's true.
Anything could happen, right? And who was Mr. Crutchfield to say? Because he was too drunk to remember?
But the videotape is a clear reminder. It shows Crutchfield stumbling time and time and time again. He also fails to cooperate with the DUI investigation.
I'm not interfering in your investigation, sir. I have my hands behind my back.
Even with all of this, case dismissed.
I think the judge made a correct decision.
Court will come to order.
Judge Martinez would not explain why he dismissed the case when there was clearly enough evidence to go forward.
I don't want to talk to you now.
Well, I appreciate that you did.
Well, okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
The Tampa Police Department did reprimand Sergeant Crutchfield for the drunk driving arrest and his behavior that night. The state attorney's office had the chance to appeal this case, but decided not to, and they're not allowed to tell us why. Since the case was expunged, they can't discuss anything about it. So it's rather unfortunate.
Fair to say that a case like that would routinely result in a guilty verdict.
Well, think about all the people who were convicted of drunk driving, and the 911 tape was never a question. Boy, they'd like to get a lucky break like this one.
Right. Sure. I mean, you have the surveillance tape, so it sort of speaks for itself.
Yeah, is this really justice?
A Bay Area father talks about the time he spent in jail for a crime he did not commit. Good evening, I'm Brendan McLaughlin.
And I'm Marty Tucker. The Action News investigators uncovered the story of shocking mistakes made by the former Pinellas Pasco County medical examiner, Joan Wood.
Last night we told you about Wood, who was forced to retire 2 years ago after prosecutors charged her with mishandling a sensational murder case involving the Church of Scientology. That case made national news after Wood reversed her decision on the death of Lisa McPherson, who died in the church's care. Now, Action News investigator Mike Mason has uncovered even more, maybe more serious mistakes.
Right, this is a horrible story and it could happen to any parent. We already told you the story of David Long. Well, while investigating his case, another innocent man, John Peel, was also released from jail. He had been locked up for 4.5 years. Unimaginable mistakes by Dr. Joan Wood led a jury to convict him of killing his own child. So how could Wood make such a big mistake? Well, we did a little digging to find out who watches over the state's medical examiners. When John Peel goes to work each morning, he's doing more than renovating a home. He's rebuilding his life. At the young age of 18, he was sent to jail for murdering his baby boy. But he didn't do it.
He was my son. I loved him more than anything in this world.
John would often fall asleep while holding John Jr. One day he woke up to find his baby dead on the floor.
It's hard. You know, nothing's going to bring him back. You know, I wish I could.
At the time, the medical examiner for Pinellas and Pasco counties was Joan Wood. She determined the baby was murdered, a victim of shaken baby syndrome. John was arrested and convicted of first-degree murder. But after spending 4.5 long years in jail, the new medical examiner discovered Wood made a big mistake.
In my opinion, his baby was not murdered, certainly wasn't shaken to death.
John Thogmartin is the new medical examiner for Pinellas and Pasco County. He and 4 other pathologists reviewed John Jr.'s autopsy report and found major discrepancies. For example, in Joan Wood's microscopic examination, she writes, there is no retinal hemorrhage or no bleeding in the eyes. But in another part of the report, she contradicts that, writing she did find gross retinal hemorrhage.
Clearly, from reading the testimony of the doctors involved, the opinions regarding whether this was shaken baby or abusive head trauma was based upon the fact that there was retinal hemorrhage when there was not.
We confronted Joan Wood at her Clearwater home. John Peel Jr. was the baby's name. It was back in 1998.
I don't know anything about that.
When we told Wood more about the case, she refused to comment.
That's my attorney's advice. And I really, I get panicky when I get around cameras, and so I'm really better off just not talking.
In the past, our cameras never seemed to bother Wood, who represented herself as an expert on shaken baby syndrome.
It's like this.
Wood was the chief medical examiner for 18 years. and helped prosecute at least 6 cases of shaken baby in the past 10 years. In recent months, prosecutors found 2 of those fathers were wrongly accused. Both John Peel and David Long were then released from jail. So why didn't anyone question Joan Wood's findings? Shockingly, Action News found she was the chairperson of Florida's Medical Examiners Commission. That commission regulates medical examiners. She held that position for 6 years, essentially regulating herself.
Certainly, I think Joan Wood should be exposed for what she was and is.
Which is?
An incompetent physician who should never have held a position for the length of time that she did.
Attorney Norman Cannella represents John Peel.
No, Joan Wood done this to me. I'm sure she done it to other people.
John Thogmartin is double-checking. In the meantime, he can only promise this won't happen again.
I would apologize to John Peel on behalf of my profession.
The Medical Examiners Commission tells us it has never received a complaint against Joan Wood that has risen to the level of an investigation. Wood has gone on to open her own practice as a medical consultant, so she is still practicing medicine. The men you saw in our report now plan to file complaints with the Board of Medicine, and that and a lawsuit are really all they can do.
The thing that I love about Fox 4 is if a government official or somebody tells us that they're not going to comment, they're not going to cooperate with us on a story, we are still allowed to do that story. We still pursue that story until we get answers. And if we don't get answers, we tell the public that we're not getting the answers. So we hold the powerful accountable, no matter what.